this step, we will introduce how to use our software to slice a 3D object. First, we can load a 3D object by clicking the load button on the top left. It can either be the form of STL file or G-code if you did the slicing before. Here we are using STL file for demonstration. This one is a demo 3D file. You can translate or move the model like this, or you can rotate the model. For example, for this one, we need to rotate it and rotate it around X or Y or Z axes to set the slicing parameters. The first tab is Print tab, and there are several sub-tabs underneath it. The speed quality you don't need to change this part because we already preset a default setting for you. The second will be structure. You may need to modify the value here, and common value we need to use is shell thickness, top bot thickness, infill overlap, infill pattern, sometimes infill angles. For support, we can change the support pattern, overhand angle, and support density. Sometimes you may need to change the XY distance and Z distance. We have a detailed description of these values within a different separate documents, so you can follow that. The third one will be extrusion. Usually we will need, if you want to enable the traction, that it means we will close the valve during some structure that need retraction. And there are G-code setting, advanced setting. These two you usually don't need to change it. If you made any modification, make sure you save it. Also, you can create new settings. So you can make settings of the name you want, and save as it, and you can select it afterward. Second will be the material tab. This is also an important settings you may need to modify. We have a default one. Definitely we have several settings for you. Usually for the two-part LSR material, the material flow and support flow will be around 85%. We already have a preset setting for you. Again, you can create new settings and also make sure you save it before you use it. The other ratio is if you want EI axis ratio to use non-1-to-1 ratio. Then the right part, the first one parameter default. Make sure you select the one you just modified. For example, it's default or other name you created. Adhesion usually we choose none. Layer height we use 0.2 for silicone. Support depends on the model, you may use no support or touching bed or everywhere. Speed, you need to switch the printing speed and also the infill density. You can modify it. Flow is all the material tab name you just modify. If you have modified or you want to use, for example, two-part material, you may want to choose 80 or 85%. And also, the most important thing here is make sure in the cartridge selection you need to select the one you want to use. For S300, usually you want to choose LSR plus support dual head to make sure it enables the dual head function. If you need to slice an object, go to slicer here and just click start slicing. It may take several seconds before it slices completely. And then under preview tab, you will find printing time, total count, and also the material consumption, the material you need in order to print this model. EIJK is the material consumption for each axis. If you click edit G-code, you will find the actual G-code of the printed object. Under preview tab, if you enable LSR and support dual head, you should find three value, the E, I, J value, they are all non-zero, and E value and I value are the same, which means we have 1-to-1 ratio silicone mixing, and then a support material consumption.